With that, we come to our next presentation. Big data, they say, is not a far-fetched idea. It is becoming part of the enterprise IT these days. So we have an interesting session where you will know how big data is being used for matchmaking. To take this session on using big data for matchmaking, how analytics can help, and present his company's case, I would like to invite Mr. Jairam K. Iyer, Chief Strategy and Analytics Officer, Matrimony.com. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Iyer joins us on stage.
Hello, good afternoon. I know I'm standing between probably a presentation and lunch. Usually lunch wins, but let me try and keep you all gentlemen into this hall. May I have a presenter? Thanks. Thank you. I'm just going to I just have 11 slides. Probably the key thing is to say how in matchmaking, especially for matchmaking, we are using analytics and big data. So before that, I'm just going to launch ourselves into a quick round of what we are. We are about 15 years old. 65% of market share belongs to us, which comprises several online matrimony portals, including Shaadi, Jeevan Saathi, and so on. This is a KPMG report. We believe it is slightly higher for us, but that's what it is, at 65%. We have both online and offline matchmaking. Offline means actually there are relationship managers who deliver the service, and we have more than about 300 websites, customized, sliced and diced for almost every segment that you can think of: defense, doctors, 40 plus, divorcee, IRs, whatever you can think of, language, all those cuts. We have about 2.1 lakh registrations a month. That's about 7,000 registrations a day. That's a lot of people registering in a day. Then about close to 2 lakh premium members who actually pay up. It's a freemium model. More than 120 million profiles are viewed each month. About 20 C2C interactions every second. More than 20 million logins a month. And over 2.5 million active members at any given point in time. I just wanted to give you an idea of the size. So we are also in about 1,500 success stories. Sorry, that's a typo, a day. And we have about 4,000 employees across India. And we have now forayed into matrimony photography. We'll be having Matrimony Bazaar, which is a marketplace model, and that's about the thing on our company. And some of the guiding philosophies before I delve into how analytics and big data is leveraged. First thing is, we want to think in terms of maximizing customer value. Almost no action or no model or an analytics initiative gets started without understanding how it is going to maximize customer value. And there are clear matrices as to what those matrices have to move. For example, it could be the number of responses, or it could be the number of express interest sent, or number of personalized messages, or could be any of those member values, right? Those have to move up. We have to achieve customer one view. Whatever happens, we can't leave data in silos. And we have to integrate and coordinate cross-channel reach. It was something which Taibawala was actually talking about some time ago. We try to integrate online with, let's say, a call center, or call center with our social media. And we try and do this across an integrated approach. Not that we are there yet, but that's a step taken several months ago. And I think we are reaping already some of those benefits. Help intelligently automate and customize marketing and operations. That means we actually no more do some templated one-size-fits-all routine. We try and do customization not only at the level of names and other things, but we also try and understand how engagements have happened on the site, and accordingly try and automate the processes of marketing, be it, for example, serving profiles, or asking for a certain customer call for action, and so on. And lastly, most importantly, believe data is the only natural resource. In fact, we have nothing else. We have just customer profiles, which is data. We have customer interactions, which is data, which is what we do, that's data. And all that data is all we have. And therefore, most importantly, there is absolutely no data that we think is actually useless in some sense. And we think the most expensive data is the one that we have not actually got. So with that, I think let me just move towards the sets of analytics that we actually do. We have broadly the customer process that I have listed on the top, which is actually the marketing, which is acquisition analytics. Then we have the registration of the profile, where we do enormous lot more analysis that we do, where from this member came, what is his background, and so on and so forth. Then the next process is the discovery and search, how members discover themselves on the site with others, where we have, of course, the recommendation algorithm, which I will talk a bit more in detail later. Of course, then we have the C2C contacts, that is member contacts, which is done, and the customer delayed. There's a host of analytics work that gets done here. Of course, statistical, non-statistical, and so on. For instance, in predictive analytics, we actually try and see when a customer will actually come back to the site, or when a customer is not likely to come back to the site. We can predict, for example, today with reasonable accuracy, what day part a member is likely to visit back. And those things are interesting to us because we can motivate members who are likely to be matched also to log in during that time, which actually then maximizes matchmaking. We have a host of channel analytics. For example, which channel would a member like the matchmaking services to be served with? Some of them are purely online, they are on web, some of them are mobile based, so some of them are offline purely. They want relationship managers to help them out with. So we can determine which channels they want to get those services from, and we accordingly push them up to those channels. We also define, for example, what is the ideal customer path a member has to take. For example, once a member is in, we want to actually motivate a customer to do a certain number of profile views, do a certain number of express interests, do a certain number of contacting, and only then matchmaking can fructify. Otherwise, probably the member is bought a pack and he is underutilizing the pack. So we have those customer ideal paths with time, and we actually motivate members to actually move through those paths. All these things are, of course, done through also the back-end analysis, which is for the sales analytics. Based on profile quality, we know, for example, which products and services they will buy, channel propensity, product propensity. So we have a host of products which are both online and offline, and also differing upon different price points. So we have products as low as 3,200 to as high as 2 lakhs, and this analytics helps us in determining which member should be pitched what product through what channel. Having said all that thing, we also do a lot of analytics on campaign management. Recently, a year ago, we purchased both the inbound and outbound analytical CRM tool from IBM, which is IBM Interact and IBM Campaign Management Tool. We run almost about 150 campaigns each month. Inbound, we have just now recently started inbound channels. So we will be scaling up. We are also analyzing the campaign performances through this team. I'm just going to MIMA, which is the Matrimony's intelligent matchmaking algorithm. I just wanted to say what is the need for this matchmaking algorithm. Members actually, when they register, they have to say who they are. They also need to say in another form called partner preference, what kind of people they want to marry. Now, often youngsters as well as the parents, they're a bit gawky. In our site, about 75% of the profiles are registered directly by self, which is the boy or the girl, and about 20% is registered by parents, and 5% by siblings. Now, the key point is that they actually never know what to write there. And they almost leave that form empty. And there is an implicit assumption that the other member or we would know what they want. Sometimes when we went on to focus group interviews, The members would say, why should we state? You should know what kind of girl. That is expectation. So that is the first point. Now let's understand what is the problem. A member who is registered today is facing about 7,000 registrations every day and also probably about 2.65 million active members. Now the point is, what do we serve them? I mean, I could slice and dice it in some way, okay, but that somewhere we thought that we were playing God here, okay, determining who should marry whom, right? I mean, that's not a right way to look at the whole objective of matchmaking. So, and the point also is that most never searched. They would just be online doing nothing. They were not actually moving profiles and looking at things and all. They don't search. They are just clicking on profiles that appeared in some order. So the question was, which is the leading question, what do we show? I mean, how do we show it? And in what order do we show that? So we embarked about a year and a half on developing an algorithm, which is called, and it took about a good 9 months to do it with about almost 70, a team of 70 engineers and analysts who are working on this project. And now it is completely operational on the site since the last, since March this year. I will also take you through what were the end metrics on that. So we developed this algorithm, which is what probably in the next 2-3 slides I will explain. The context is that it's in registration, search and discovery and communication. The second step almost took about 3 to 6 months, which is search and discovery. And since there were several thousands of profiles, most of them had viewing fatigue, if you can understand what I'm trying to say. Viewing hundreds of profiles, probably not as good as matching or not, right? So, and customer communication also reduced, fatigue sets in, so lower profile views, more time taken for matchmaking, and we said we need to have this changed. So we built a recommendation and increased customer engagement. How did we do it? First of all, I'm just going to walk you through the pseudo code, or in some sense the logic of how it works. I'll fill it up with stats and what kind of technologies we used probably in the next slide. First of all, you will identify a target profile, say a girl, G, who is registered. Say, we will put her a name, Arpita. Okay. Now that girl has come, she has put in a profile. The next step is to find a set of profiles, G, set of girls who are similar to Arpita. In the next slide, I will explain how that is done. For statistical process, I just wanted to say it's a clustering algorithm. Already that determines the nearest member algorithms are all there, which actually puts up who are all people who are similar to her. The next is, once you find that set G, who are similar girls, the find out profiles that set G girls like. I mean, what kind of boys do they like? So we have a host of last about 5-6 years of data on what kind of, profiles these girls liked. So I have a body of girls and a body of boys that these girls liked. So once I get that set of boys that this set of girls like, the next is of course to set from that B, the boys set, derive actually a model profile B, okay, that take it out, okay. And once I take out a model profile, okay, this is what is a model girl, this is what is a model boy this girl Arpita likes. Next is actually to score against this model profile the entire set of boys. Now I could get a score and throw it out. This looks very simple, but it's a lot of complex math and a lot of complex stuff that goes behind it. So just to take you through, then present it in an order in respect to places. Run step 1, 2, 3 every day, and it's machine learning. Okay, run step 5 and 6 on real time, right? So when we say run this, we have to do step 2, 3, 4 on a batch process at the back. And the most important point is that because it is run every day, it also accounts for changing tastes and preferences. So it learns automatically. For example, let us say 6 months ago, Arpita type of girls like, let's say, tech boys. Okay. Now let's say the fashion has changed and they all like analyst boys. I mean, that will get reflected in the changing tastes and preferences because it is almost cooked every day, and we don't actually look at, we place a lot of weightage to recent likes, recent interest rather than past interest. And then the moment a person logs in or does not log in, because the profiles get served also through emails, get served through on mobile apps and so on and so forth. The next aspect is to just to keep throwing those profiles in a certain order, which matches are most liking, right? Just to explain more, okay? So the steps is, for example, as I said, just trying to explain the algorithm a bit more in detail. What are all the sets that we used? For example, the moment Arpita registers, find demographically and in some sense psychographically some of the similar set of girls, that is set G. How do we do that? We have 30 parameters such as age, education, occupation, family values, eating habits, location, etc., are used, and we put differing weights using regression, and that's our target cluster. Once we get the target cluster, we arrive at the prospect cluster, which is the set of opposite gender that a male member likes. That is by analyzing through big data stacks, what are the kinds of express interest and personalized messages have gone from this group to the opposite member. We get that. We build the models and create the target model. And then once the prospect is formed, the demographics, we have rules to determine weights, to determine what are the key properties of the profiles. And then the last 4 is actually scoring the algorithm, where we use the most popular, and it is one of the most elegant ones, which is the Euclidean distance, to actually compute the distance between a prospect and the desired member's profile, and we score it and present it. Solar is used on the first 3-4 steps. HDFS is also used for C2C information tracking, and then on the cloud, on real-time Euclidean distance measures are computed and ordered at the time of login. How did it benefit? I'm going good on time, so probably I'll be able to take some questions too. So MIMA has actually resulted in 28% increase in C2C in the third month by third month, it has grossed 28% increase in C2C, which is a big number for almost, I'll realize most of your CEOs, a lift of such high proportion is pretty good. I mean, you could say the team has done a good job. The number of profiles viewed on by an average user increased by close to 53%, which is, these are phenomenal numbers. That means people actually loved the kind of profiles we were serving. Lastly, success stories jumped by a staggering 50%. So the number of matches, success stories means actual pairing of marriages. Those things have jumped. So which are big numbers for us. I think that demonstrates the success of the recommendation algorithm. What is next? Of course, besides customer, this thing, we want to take it to location based. So if any one of you is still unmarried, registered on our site, and you have traveled from somewhere else, I would like a recommendation engine which will say, okay, somewhere in this hall there is a lady or a man who matches your preference. Would you like to chat up right now? That's the kind of thing that we want to take it up next to. I mean, I may be slightly exaggerating to be in this room, and probably none of us are unmarried, probably, but still maybe looking, that's different. But I think that is the first thing. But actually, this makes a lot of sense in a population that is moving, that is constantly migrating. I think location-based MIMA is something that we are very seriously investing ourselves in. The second thing that we are investing is in personality and text themes. So they'll write lots of stuff, right? They correspond, they write mails, they write chats and exchanges. Can we learn through machines? There are not going to be people who are going to read it, but machines, if we could actually cull out key information, form personality type sets, and see whether personality matchmaking can be done without asking questions. So what eHarmony in US does is they ask about 300 questions to map your personality. If we asked 16 questions, actually a lot of us will lose interest in marriage. So I don't think we are going to ever have the opportunity of asking so many questions. So what we want to actually do is Can we use analytics to actually call out personality based on opinions, interests, and activities, including not only the correspondence that people are making, but also you in Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else? Can we call out the personality? Because there are a lot of information that these guys leave out. I mean, for example, if someone liked, let's say, a particular composer's music, would that mean that another person with on the opposite gender liking similar music would have a happier marriage? We don't know that, but that's something which we want to take it to. Then dynamic real time. This is something which we want to do right away. On a web page, I mean, this is easily foreseeable also in a mobile world. Let's say on the first page I've served 20 profiles, and there are next about, let's say, 10 pages with recommended profiles from Mima. Based on your choice on the first page, can we reorder the second, third, and the fourth page? Based on that intelligence, based on that real-time intelligence, can we reorder this thing? That is something which we are wanting to work on, and we are doing that. The last is image and photo based on the kind of photos that you like. I mean, that's some information that we already have. We actually did this once. We wanted to, we actually launched this 3 years ago. You could actually input a photograph, and based on photo matching things, it will show up similar looking girls. So what it means for girl is, if you liked Salman Khan, you could actually put a Salman Khan's photo, and it will throw up profiles that look like Salman Khan. And you boys could also do that. You could put Aishwarya Rai's photo if she is current. I don't know who is current right now, but let's say you could put that girl's photo, Alia Bhatt, right? Alia Bhatt's photo, and you could actually get girls or similar. But at that point in time, we were not so clever. Somebody put a gorilla's photo, and yet few photographs turned up. So, you know, we need to be clever, right? I mean, we need to be, but we are getting there, and image and photo based matchmaking. Thank you. We're taking questions. There's still 4 minutes.
Yeah, we've got time. Excellent presentation. I think we were glued to our seats. We were glued to whatever you were saying. But the one thing I should comment, yeah, you are among the few individuals who know what women want.
Well, that's a tall claim, actually.
Yeah, but
nobody can figure that out.
But you
I
did
know
figure it
algorithm
out.
Can, but,
and it seemed to be very complicated. Yeah. So we've got a question here.
How do you use the data, you know, from, say, because, you know, your matrimony business has been on for 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you use the past data? Is there a way to use the past data?
Actually, in our business, churn is good. Okay. So unlike other firms like bank or any of those companies that are dying to keep customers, they're actually happy if they leave, because they have to be married and leaving, right? I mean, that is a good thing for us. Since there is changes in taste and preferences are high, we actually don't see much value in analyzing a data which is even before 2 years. Though we have all that data, but there are enormous changes in the way people are looking out to marry, and the kinds of mediums they choose, the kinds of things they choose. In fact, some of the trends that we look are enormously interesting. Just will take 2 minutes more, probably. In 1940s, the average difference in age between the male and the female was 10 years. And the marriageable age was about 16 and 22. Each decade, the difference has come down by 1 year, and the average age has gone up by 1 year. But the fact is, in the last 5 years, we see this moving enormously fast. So earlier, people used to be okay marrying 5, 6 years difference, but now boys and girls don't like. It's okay to marry equal age or, you know, slightly higher. Now, the moment you say equal age or slightly higher, your educational choices change. So 25-year-old male 5 years ago would be looking for a graduate girl at 20. Probably that man is looking for a postgrad at 25. So these things change now. I think those are, so therefore, there is value in looking at past data, but there is only so much value and not much. But it's extremely important to be current, and if you're lucky, actually spot trends, be futuristic.
Yeah, I know there will be lots of questions on this, but we have time only for one more question, sir, over here. Yeah, and maybe the next time we will take a full day session on this.
Thank you, Jairam. It's a very, indeed, you have given a very detailed, what you call architecture of that MIMA algorithm. So, and lighter said, is there any algorithm to keep post-marriage the wife happy? I mean, so I mean, that's right. Maybe over the food we can talk about that thing. So my question is, the number of registrations per day is maybe 7,000, 8,000. So there are a lot of fake profiles also going to be, I mean, created by the people. So how you avoid such kind? I mean, how you filter those things by using big data kind of this
Sorry,
thing?
filter what?
Fake profile.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a one thing. And if at all, in a fake, if at all some kind of background checks, how you will do? I mean, maybe physically you guys go and check that credibility of those guys and how it will done. So just explain.
So thanks. He asked 3 questions, I think, instead of 1. So I'll still answer them. The first question: how to keep wife happy after marriage? Any algorithm? Let me know. Second question is about fake and fraud profiles. We have a very robust fraud analytics in place. We detect fraudsters pretty easily, but they keep coming back. Probably there are about 10 fraudsters or 12 fraudsters on our site against a total of about 2.6, 2.7 million active members. We keep following them, we keep sandboxing them. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. For example, those guys typically are not Indian, several one of them, they are from outside, and they don't know how Indian marriage system works. The problem is a fraudster is not seriously looking out. So we know what a normal behavior is, and we can catch an abnormal behavior like nobody's. Right? For example, most often, a Marathi boy is not going to express interest to a Bengali girl. A fraudster doesn't know that, right? I mean, he's trying almost everyone. So we catch all those things. So we sandbox them, or we hand it over to crime and so on. The non-serious ones, which are actually coming to have time pass, it's okay, boss. That's what is there. I mean, there are very few of them. We don't want to actually unnecessarily upset the non-malicious intent people on our site. There are not many, but that's okay. They will all walk away. Once in a while, I think people would like to know what their worth is by putting a profile. I know there are a lot of, people here also would want to do that. Just switch the age down to 30 years down and see how many, express interest come. But that's okay. I mean, once in a while, you need to test your worth in this thing. Other than that, I don't think we take the other ones lightly, the ones with fraud intent. We have very strong analytics team and fraud prevention team. We capture device IDs, we capture bank accounts, credit card. We make the operations of a fraudster so difficult, and we sandbox them so much that it's very, very difficult. We are okay. We are not that bad.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ed Nair. Can you please step up on stage to hand over a memento to Mr. Iyer? Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear a huge round of applause for Mr. Iyer? And as we promised earlier, maybe the next time we will have a longer session with matrimony.com. Thank you very much.